What's up, everybody? We're back on Real Estate Reserve Podcast. We got another great episode. We got another guest from out of town. We're just racking them up, the out-of-towners recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to change my outfit so it didn't look like we were...
No, we're not banging them back to back. Hey, nobody's...
Put my hat back?
There you go.
But you know what? You got to capitalize. We'll be honest here. We're stacking two together because we're capitalizing on the fact that we're having an event. We got some people from out of town that we normally don't get to do in-person live podcasts with because we truly believe that doing the in-live podcasts have a way better dynamic than doing them online because honestly, this is the first time I met Seth. We talked a lot online and text and late night Facebook chats. But now we're here in person, and I mean the five seconds I've been with him, it's been a great dynamic. Seth, you want to introduce yourself to let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, so Columbus, Ohio is where I'm from. I've been a firefighter, paramedic for 22 years. I got into real estate, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and realized quickly that if I wanted to scale, I had to go multifamily. So I went to a large multifamily, basically right out the gate, never flipped, never did single family, never wholesaled, nothing, went straight to the bigger stuff. And then over the last, 4 or 5 years, we've built a pretty big company. We vertically integrated, and so that's it. I'm out here to hang out with another fireman and meet other people that are crushing it.
We got to work on your retirement beard because from the talks of it,
I'm not that retired yet.
I mean, from the sounds of it, you should be retired the same way everyone was telling me that I should have retired. So I'm sure you're going to get beat up over the next few days. But so your first deal was a multifamily deal. You didn't waste any time on any of the other crap. You just went right multifamily.
Right. Yeah. So when I got into real estate, I was looking for something that could generate revenue or passive income. I always thought it was passive, right, in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I did that because I found myself working in the firehouse 24/48s, and then I would work overtime. So our place was, rather than hire more people, they would just pay unlimited overtime. So you pretty much write your own check. So I found myself working 48 on, 24 off, 48 on, all the time. And the last year, that was kind of like my breaking point, was I did 1,000 hours of overtime and got a reward. Got like an award from the guys. And it was just kind of this funny thing, right? But it really took a toll on my family and my kids. And, we had one, and then we had twins, and it was like, what are we going to do here? And so I started looking into real estate, and I met a guy that I went to college with. We were roommates. I went into the fire service. He went into real estate and was going to be a realtor. And I hadn't heard from him in years. Well, then I found him on social media, and he's this multimillionaire, real estate investor, hard money lender, had a whole, education program. And I'm like, what in the heck happened? How did this guy go from who I knew to that? And so I got a hold of him, and he kind of gave me some advice. And then I found somebody local that was doing it, and I worked for that guy for about a year because at the time I had no experience, but I had time. So I offered my time to him to help manage his flips and then his rental portfolio. And that was kind of where I got my feet wet. But I realized in that time frame or that process that, man, if I want to really do this, I got to go big. And so, the first deal I did was 50 units.
What year was this, and where was that property located?
So it's in Zanesville, Ohio, which is like a real, kind of rural tertiary market. And
you're going to have to describe exactly where in the state is it, because apparently Jason's not good at geography.
So I was like, Columbus is like central Ohio, dead in the middle, and then Zanesville's kind of like going towards Pittsburgh, right off of 70. So it's kind of like one of those anchor cities where it's not, if you look at the data online, it's not really growing, but it's not really going away either. But the rental market was when we were looking at the data, it was 50% of the people that live there rent. So we knew the demand would be super high. At the time, being my first deal, I'm like, here's the money I have. I went to one other investor, was like, hey, I can do this. I gave him a whole spiel and a pitch, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we went out, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go find the most units that we can afford, and that's what we're gonna do, and that's where we found it. So
did you get bank money for the first position, or how?
So I had some money. I went to an investor that was.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. What was the purchase price of your first deal for 50 units?
$1.75 million.
1.75. What was that?
It's like 30-something thousand a door.
Yeah, 30,000. Yeah,
mid-30s.
Okay.
So it needed a bunch of work, which was good. I knew, again, that my construction background in the fire service was pretty strong, so I was comfortable with that. And I knew going into that deal that I had to pick, either I'm going to do construction or I'm going to have to manage the leasing and whatnot. So I was like, well, I don't want to do both. So I interviewed several management companies, found a company down there that I felt would manage it well, and then I just took on the construction part. And we in 14 months, there's a lot of lessons learned. We renovated about 40 of the 50 units and refied and made $1 million in equity in that first deal, and that was like, I'm like, this is it,
Of course.
Set. Yeah.
Did you do that? Wait, did you take out $1 million from the refinance, or just had $1 million? Yeah.
No, we pulled out $1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you pulled out 2.75. You're roughly plus or minus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we paid back. We got all of our money back out of the deal, and then I went into the deal undercapitalized because I went in with like $50K in the bank, thinking that was going to be enough to at least get me going. Right?
Hell yeah.
Do stuff off the cash flow. And I actually talked to a friend of mine in Cleveland who he used to work for Strongsville Fire, and he got out of the fire service because of his rental portfolio up there. And I called him. I'm like, hey, we closed, blah, blah, blah. The first rents come in, and it was significantly less than what I saw on paper when I bought the deal. And I'm like, what the heck? Well, what I found out was that a ton of people had left in like the middle of the night from the time we closed until the first payout, because all of a sudden, you have a legitimate management company, and the people that were there were like, oh, the gig's up. We are actually going to have to pay now. And so we had like 12 people move out. Plus, we already had 6 units, I think, vacant. So it barely came in enough to cover the expenses. And I called him. I'm like, what do I do? And he was like, you are way undercapitalized. So I set me on a path to go raise private money. That was the first time I'd really done that. So I raised about $250,000, strictly promissory notes based on my integrity, my character, like people that knew me. And we financed the construction through that money. So like I said, we refied, everybody got their money back, plus their interest, and we had enough money to go buy the next one. So that was kind of how we started.
I like it. It's good.
It's
a good way to do it. Well, my favorite part was like, hey, we bought the biggest property we could buy with the money that we had. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, hey, whatever, I've got, $200,000. I'm going to go buy one, one little property. It was like, I'm going to go buy the biggest property that we could buy.
I mean, but okay, so there's a few things here. Seth obviously breaks my mold of like everybody should go do single family real estate and get really good at it. But you also had a few things going for you, right? You had construction background, which most people don't have. You had the ability to go out and raise some capital, whether you knew it or not, right? Like, and I think a lot of people get into real estate, and you said it early on, was my favorite word. You know which word that is? Passive. He's like, oh, yeah, we thought we were getting into it because it was passive investment. It's not, right?
No such thing.
And I think the fire service background, and Jay wouldn't really know this, but like, our job's not done, or my job was not done. Our job is not done until the fire's out, right? Like, it has to be completely out before you can leave. And I think it teaches you discipline to get the job 100% done, that a lot of people are too easy just to skate out the back door.
Yeah. And I mean, in that deal, like I said, it's easy to sit here now and say like, oh, it made $1 million and all this all worked out. But I was at the firehouse, and then I was there every day for a year. Yeah. And my stepdad came up. The place needed new windows. We didn't have enough money to pay. If I would have brought in a contractor to do all the windows, it would eat up our whole budget. So him and I did, we went 2 weeks straight, 12-hour days. We ripped out all the windows, installed all the new windows. I spent a whole summer finishing them on the outside. I started doing the renovation, and I realized that, man, people are leaving faster than I can do this. So I was hanging drywall. I was doing the outlets. I was changing out toilets. I was doing all that stuff because I knew how to do it. And I quickly realized, like, this is going to go downhill fast if I don't get help. So I created a team of other contractors, started managing that just like, I'm a lieutenant on my truck. So it was just like, I put it together just like I would if I was on a fire.
Yep.
And then I kind of stepped away and started running material, and I let those guys work, because then when I was at the fire station, they could be working all the time. And, it was really my first experience of building out a team. But again, to me, all of my background in the fire services is stuff that I leaned on. Even our company now, like Tim, my main partner, is a fireman. He's been in it 22, 23 years. But we have SOPs, we have chain of command. I mean, we set everything up just like the fire service, because that's what we know. And, it just runs. It runs efficiently right now, but there's tons of, like, our growing pains now are like systems and processes.
Yep. Well, and you would think it would be easier to build systems and processes from the fire service, but the people need to understand is when it's on fire, a lot of shit goes out the window, and you just kind of get it done, right? Yeah. But, I mean, it is an eerily similar story. It is kind of crazy. And I would say I totally forgot what the fuck I was going to say, because this isn't my podcast. This is for you. I was just going to say a really good point, and now I totally forgot it. So anyway, so you do your first deal. It literally slipped my mind. You do your first deal. What does deal number 2 look like?
So I actually got called from the same owner, and he was like, hey, I'm looking to get rid of my other property down there. Would you be interested? So I was like, well, heck yeah. Like, I just followed you and made a killing. I'll buy your next one too because I'm sure it's ran the same way.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And, you know, so we started evaluating it, and of course it was. That one was 40 units. So I bought that one and started doing the same thing. And then when I met Tim, we were like, you know, hey, we met through a mutual friend that we were kind of mentoring, and we were like, if we put our forces together, we could scale a lot faster and get bigger. And so then we just started kind of scaling from there. And
what year was this? When did this start?
I bought the first property in 2016, I think.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to put, you know, reference in it.
Yeah.
So how many units do you guys own today? I mean,
So
in
right now
6
in
years.
Central Ohio, we've got just under 650. We're working on a 90-unit deal. We've got several other bigger things in the pipeline we're trying to evaluate. And then we brought on another guy from Utah, and with his involvement, we've been able to scale to, 1,200, I think, outside of the state of Ohio. And it's you have like equity holdings. So we're part of the general partnership on those.
What do you do? Like, what's your responsibility on the GP side for the out of state stuff?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that the out of state stuff is stuff that that he's a part of, and then we will contribute capital or whatnot. And then it's more like we'll sign on the loan, we'll bring the net worth and liquidity. We'll have people that'll contact us and say, hey, like I found this is my second deal, I can't get it done. The bank wants more experience, and so then they'll call us and we'll work out something with them to where we can get the deal done. So that's kind of how we've.
Let's talk a little bit about the capital stack. I get it on the first one that worked, but as you've been growing, have you been following the formula of bank debt and then your own capital, or have you been going out and raising private capital for the
syndicating?
Yeah, so all of our stuff has been 506p syndications.
Okay.
We've been able to do quite a bit with just our friends and family or people that we meet and networking or referrals. You know, if somebody invests with us and they have a good experience, then we usually get 1 or 2 investment referrals from them. And that's really it. We haven't had to do a 506c yet. Everything's, we do the PPMs and, everything's official. So.
And are you doing, so that's the capital stack side of things. Are you doing acquisition fees and all that good stuff and setting up as like a standard syndication or?
Yeah. Yep. So we do all that stuff, and we do the acquisition fees, which usually it helps us to scale the management side because we manage all of our stuff
right
in Ohio. We do all the construction, so it's allowed us to scale the employment of those people and kind of get bigger.
But you're charging a management fee back and a developer's fee.
So we manage just like it's a third-party entity. But the thing that we found is, we try to do third-party management on some stuff, and it was just not working. I mean, you're paying either more or the same for less service.
What did that transition look like for you? The headaches, the trials and tribulations, whatever it may be, when you went from third-party management to bringing it in-house to become vertically integrated? Because I believe the way you're doing it is going to be correct long-term.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've gone back and forth 100 times. Like, do we just fold this thing up and go back to third party? Because our portfolio is big enough in Central Ohio where we could bring in like a institutional size management company. So that's the back and forth is like, we're spending time managing people, managing problems or headaches that they come up with. Where we would, it's either we hire an asset manager that manages the company, that side of things, and we don't have to deal with it because we need to be focused on raising capital, meeting new investors, meeting new, looking for deals,
finding deals,
underwriting things, the things that generate revenue. So it's been a back and forth. Contractors, the same thing. We went through we went through a contractor that we thought was going to be able to handle our volume. He said yes to everything, and then he basically imploded. And then we had another company that we went with that presented to be like this super great, turnkey. That's what they promised us. Had all the the big office, the fancy stuff, the vehicles, everything, and then they couldn't deliver. And so that was we've kind of gone back and forth. That's why we ended up just hiring our own people to do the skilled stuff.
I'll tell you this much: they all suck, right? Like everybody, like it's what it is. It's like everybody. Sometimes it feels like everyone's faking it to make it till you get to a size that you can hire the right people. And I'll tell you what: for us, running on our residential portfolio, running management. And doing the construction ourselves, we're licensed contractors. We go through the same things. We initially started out on a single family flip, hiring contractors. That shit went out the window immediately because it's like, dude, you're not getting it done fast enough. Like you got to go. And remember that one event we were at? Actually, it was right here in your office. The one mastermind you held, and what's his name's like, yep, contractors are like goldfish. They'll just eat until they blow up. They will literally say yes to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and that's become like a red flag for us now, where if we go to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I do that too. Oh yeah, I do that. I'm like, nah, you're probably not the guy for us. Or we'll limit you to just like you're the painter, or whatnot. But it's been a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, prove to us that you can get the work done, and if you can get the work done, then we'll discuss other opportunities. But for now, let's just do this. And I would say like us going through it. I mean, Jay's witnessed us going through it. Is like you literally you can't even tell them about the next job that's coming. Because all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, where's the next job? I want to get this one." No. Sometimes because I'm a motivator, because I'm always like, "Yeah, dude, we got this coming. Like, let's go. And my project manager's screaming at me. He's like, "Would you shut the fuck up, man? Like, he's trying to get to the next job. He ain't even done this one." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right. All right, I'll keep my mouth shut." So. Yeah,
so we have a whole contract that we have them sign. We pay in phases. I mean, we've taken mistakes that we've made or learned from, and then we've gotten with other people that through networking and mastermind groups that we're part of that are farther along than we are, and like been able to kind of figure it out better. So it's still like a work in progress, but it's still much more economical than, because that's the hard thing is you can't, until you get to a certain size, you can't bring in like a legit real construction company. So you're stuck, you're not you're not pulling guys from Craigslist. No offense to anybody that, offers their services on there, but most of the people that I found on there are, they're not good at what they do. And then we're not big enough to get the big groups either. So, that finding that guy that can be regular and consistent has been tough.
Yeah.
But it's, that we found better if we just hire them and then give them benefits and give them like a regular schedule. We get a lot more out of them.
Is all the assets you own now multifamily?
Yes.
Is that the plan to stick with as of now?
Yeah. I mean, I think as of right now, it's like our lane, right? I mean, I think it's, we're going deep in multifamily versus kind of like spreading out. I mean, I know we've been interested in doing self-storage and some of the other ones, but I'm always kind of like afraid, like if you start venturing out,
sure,
does it become like a distraction? So if we're charging ahead and we're like, we want to build this thing out, and then I get like I could flip this house over here, it'd be real easy, and then all of a sudden it becomes not easy. There's foundation issues, or there's something big, or you get into self-storage, and I could be great at multifamily, but really be bad at self-storage unless I'm partner with somebody that's good at it. And then now it sucks up all my time, and we've now slowed the train down of multifamily, what we're doing. So I don't know.
True. No, I mean that's true. And a lot of these projects that you buy, is it kind of a rinse and repeat thing, like you said on the first deal? Like, are they straight value add where you're trying to get that exit as the refi, and then are these long-term holds? Most of these, or are you trying to
5-year,
flip these things in short?
Yeah, I mean, we bought one last year. We paid $1.25 million. We've put about $400,000 in, and we're actually the brokers are taking pictures of it right now because we have a big land development deal that we're doing, and so the guys that are in that deal are like, yeah, let's sell it, and then we'll just roll our money into this better deal. And so that's really, I think, where we're at is. When we first started, it's like flipping. You're buying C-class.
Yep.
You're having to do all this construction, this heavy lifting.
100%.
And then it's like, the upside. I'm like at the first deal, I made $1 million on that one, and it sounds great, but I probably spent like 7,000 hours down there to make that $1 million. So when you actually break it down, your time, I was making minimum wage.
Right.
And those are just, I'm just throwing numbers out there. But that's the thing that we're kind of like, you know what, maybe we buy a B-class building. We're going to pay for more for it. Maybe it doesn't have a ton of, $1 million upside, but it's a little more stable. It's more of a management play. It's less of a headache.
Yeah,
maybe
predictable.
Maybe we make $500,000, but we can go and do 3 of those deals instead of this one. And when you get into the ones that are, like here, if you buy like a boarded up building and you're like, this is gonna be great, we can renovate this thing. There's so many hidden things, and they're just the risk.
And pride of ownership for your investors goes a long way. Going from Class C to Class B or Class B to Class A is like, dude. Then your investors are like, hey man, look what I own. Like I don't know what Zanesville, Ohio looks like, but if they're all sitting around the kitchen table, oh yeah, I invested in this deal in Zanesville, Ohio, and they're all like, yo, you're an idiot, right? Like, what are you doing? That's a super big risk versus buying the Class B in Utah or wherever else you were operating, or even around Ohio.
Yeah, and there's only so many Class C properties you can buy, anyways.
Class
in general, right? That's challenging to do, and that's, I don't want to say starter stage, but it's the same thing as buying self-storage facilities, smaller self-storage facilities in the middle of nowhere, right? You start there. It's heavy lifting, it's sweat equity, and then you work your way up. And it gets to the point that it's like, I just want to buy this bang ass Class A building. very little headache and very predictable cash flow, and not even have to think about it.
And Class C buildings come with Class C problems. The phone rings all the time. We started with subsidized housing, single family, drove you through some of the neighborhoods real quick, but like, dude, those areas bring problems. Like, and I think to scale long term, and you talk about vertically integrating your management company, I don't know that you want all those crazy things on your hand. You want to make it predictable and easy. You can rinse and repeat all across the country if you so choose.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, our management teams, they feel the same way, where they're like, you guys go out and buy this property and you think it's great, but then it consumes half of our day, where these other ones are cash flow on day one. They're less headache, so it's the team feels the same.
Tweak
thing.
management,
dude. It's every business.
Yeah,
that's how my lending portfolio is too. I lend to the right people at higher LTVs that can perform. I don't have to worry about it. I lend at a 25 LTV to some idiot who doesn't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They have lower credit and high construction, and they're can't pay their bills right.
But
I gotta chase them around.
15 years ago, you would have taken
they're both
a touch more chance back then.
They're
se.
both still in the lending model. They're still kind of both in the wheelhouse, but you definitely, but like 10% of the 10% of the portfolio is lower quality, higher equity.
Right.
Because we don't have, I'm not hiring manpower to manage those
And
things.
as you build credibility in the marketplace in your lending, you went from having to even look at those deals to saying they just self-weed themselves out. They don't even call you because we know Jason won't lend on that because
or it'll be a ridiculous number that it doesn't make sense.
Is that why I got raped all them years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you were in shitty areas.
Yeah, I was.
That's why.
So
and now,
it was always a fight.
Capital is a lot easier.
Yeah. Hey man, come on,
now
please.
You're in better assets.
Yes. Yes.
No, but it's funny because I think in every business, no matter who we deal with, we talk to real estate operators, it's all the same thing. Like we're all striving to get to the best stuff.
Yeah.
The best stuff. And yeah, maybe dollar for dollar, it might not be as much, but you can scale it and automate it, and it's just easier. Than doing that. And also, as you grow, you're taking on more capital, and you have to worry more about your capital investors, right? It's less sweat equity, and I mean, your capital investors want to be in these things. Like, do you go into these things with the plan that you're going to exit your capital investors via refi after 5 years? Like, what's kind of the expectation?
So right now, like I said, a lot of our stuff has been like refi after 2 years. We'll do bridge loans, whatnot. We've done a bunch of that kind of stuff, and then usually we say 5 to 7 year hold. I mean, it's a pretty standard thing because if you cost seg up front, you have to hold it for a minimum of 5 years for that to not have bigger repercussions and whatnot. And then even to that, everybody talks about doing cost segregation and multifamily, but we look at each deal independently. And we're like, do the investors that we have in this deal, do they benefit from it? Because if they don't, we don't do it.
Why spend the money?
Exactly. And then it just, it causes recapture problems later on. And, you bank all these paper losses that they can't access.
Exactly.
And so it's like, for us, it's like a case by case basis on who we bring in, and then sometimes too, like we'll show a deal to specific people that we know they like, they like the risk tolerance, or they're good with not getting paid out a whole for like, hey, the first year we're not paying it. Your pref is this, but we're not paying it because we got to nosedive this thing to turn it around. I'm hoping those days are behind us where we can go for bigger and better properties now. And like you said, bringing in people that want a little bit of pride and ownership in what they own, that'll get us into bigger and better deals. So
I gotta ask, dude, I'm still like floored. Like, where did you get the balls to even think like, 50 units day one? Like, I'm
How
still
much of
floored.
your own capital did you put into that deal? I know we didn't really mention
probably
that.
like $100,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money on your first deal.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, that was probably your whole savings.
Yeah,
fuck it, let's go, right? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Well, my wife was not very, the whole year, she's like, are you sure? Are you sure this is going to work?
And you showed her that $1 million.
It was funny because I went to like lesson number one was I went to 5 lenders. And the first one was like drug me around for 2 or 3 weeks saying he was going to get it done, the loan officer. And then it went to this credit committee and they're like, nah, we're not doing it. Like, you're good, the property looks good, but you don't have the experience. And I went to 4 other people before I found one that would actually do it. And then they changed the terms on me the week before closing. They were going to be good with 20% down. They said, now we want it to 25. So I'm like, where am I going to go find $75,000? Like, this is all we got. So I went to a private lender, like a hard money friend of mine. and was like, look, I need 75,000. Like, what's that look like? You know, how do we get this done? So he
do it as a second?
Yeah, he did it as a second, 16% interest for a year. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I knew that,
dude,
the law of the first deal, I had to get it done. And I was like, whatever we do, I don't care. And I was like to my wife, I will live there if I have to get this first one done, and it has to be successful.
See, it's easy to say it's the law of the first deal now looking back at it, but when you're in that moment going to do it, you're like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to get it done. I have to do, like, it's a totally different mindset, right? Like, and I got to accredit this to just being a dumb fireman. Like, that's literally what it is. Yeah. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Yep.
You're a tough guy, right?
That's
Like,
it.
yeah,
100%.
dude. I'm telling you, that shit goes.
You do figure it out. I mean, most people figure it out. You do whatever it takes.
But a lot of people,
you can't. But I mean, you can do that as a one-off deal.
A lot of people try to figure it out with money.
Oh,
That's the big difference.
Agreed.
I think us coming from the industry we came from is that we figure it out. We don't have a choice because we don't have a lot of money to toss at the problem. And you know this based on where we're located and a lot of the loans that you do and the sophisticated people that we're in D.C., right? Like there's a lot of Baltimore, D.C. region. There's a lot of high earners. They just toss money at the problem and they don't realize that their net return is terrible versus just going in there, figuring it out, getting dirty. Because now you can go tell an employee, hey, man, like, well, this is what we did. I'm not saying it's right, but this is how it works for us. Right. Go ahead, do your thing.
A lot of times, the maintenance guys will call me and they're like, hey, like, what did you guys do for this? And I got to go back, and I tell them, like, hey, here's how we did it, like, over the phone. And again, those are the things where, that's why, like, part of why we're like, do we keep managing? Do we not? Is because of those kind of calls, right? I got so much other stuff going on that I can't be answering you should be calling me to figure out how to do X, Y, Z, but it still happens. But that's also what it's pushed us into, like, through my experience and through Tim's experience, it's pushed us into doing more like education stuff and starting like Firehouse Bros. We have a investment side of things, but then we started this kind of like mentorship program.
There's that logo, Firehouse. That's what that is, Firehouse.
Yeah,
Bros?
Firehouse Bros. Yeah. So Tim and I are both firemen, and initially the goal was to set out to help other firemen or other first responders, military, police, nurses, whatever, get into this and realize that there's another way to earn income or to because we like in Ohio we get guys that go into the drop, they get out, they retire, they do 25 years, they do another 5 or 8, they get out, they have all this money that they've never had before, and they don't know what to do with it, so they just go to their normal investment guy and they just hand them all this money, and it's not necessarily the best way to do it, or there's so much other things they could do, and so we started teaching them, and what it's kind of turned into is teaching people that want to get into real estate or people that are in real estate that want to get into the bigger stuff. If you have 5 single family home guys or gals that have equity in these rentals, if they do cash out refi, rather than go out and buy that next flip, put your money into a bigger deal, and we will teach you. And that's kind of how we kind of give them a cockpit view of what this looks like, so that way they can go off and get that 20 unit or 50 unit or whatever size they want.
Yeah, no, I mean that definitely makes sense, and I'm really happy to have you come in this week. You're also here for the LFG Mastermind, but Aaron Foster, our buddy from DC, he has the First Responder Financial Freedom Group, similar to exactly what you guys are doing. And it's funny that like the firemen that figure out what life after the job looks like, how passionate they are to try to help their friends, but the friends just don't want to listen, man. It's just like you're combating a different world of people. I don't know how to say it right, but you know what I mean? It's just like, dude, if you just would do this, and this, you don't have to work this job for 1,000 years. And that's really,
it's hard.
It's a lot of jobs.
It's
but
hard, though.
It's not just fire department.
People understand that. And it's just like anytime you want to help people, help somebody in general, I've kind of learned that like you got to allow them to, you have to help them create their own epiphany. Right?
Yep.
Like they need to have that aha moment because what you're telling them will never get through.
Yeah.
Well,
you're stuck there, and if you can like train, if you can help somebody get an aha moment, and it's almost like not telling them, nah, this isn't for you, type of thing. Like you got to make them want to believe in it and figure it out, because after they have it, like you guys had it, we all had them. Like you have aha moments every day. Like, oh shit, I really.
Yeah, see, I get that, and like maybe like standard capital raising side of things, but like. Dude, I don't know, man. Like, the aha moment in the fire service and the police department and the military is real simple. You could potentially fucking die and leave your family with nothing, right? Like, to me, that's a very simple aha moment to try to figure out how to leave Like, you're in a job that you could legitimately die. I don't know.
I mean,
maybe that's a personal
is
issue.
that told
but
to people? Like, is that told to?
You're taught that shit day one in fire school.
Yeah.
You could
Like-
potentially die. We just killed 3 firemen in Baltimore. You know what I mean? Like, and they were all people we can't. I worked with the one girl for 5 years directly. It's very simple. Like, dude, she walked into work. They walked into work at 5:40. The box goes out at 5:50, and they're trapped by 5:55 and dead. You know what I mean? Like that. And to me, it's real simple. The aha moment is you got to create. If you want to continue to work that job, you need to create a revenue stream, have life insurance, whatever it is, to protect your family. If you're not here, I don't know. Maybe it's a personal bug for me. I don't know how you feel.
No, I mean it is. I think for me, I've never worked anywhere where we've lost anybody. Right? When I went to fire school in Florida, the City of Pensacola Fire Academy is where I went.
And you went back to Ohio? What the fuck is wrong with
I'm
you?
not even from Ohio. I'm originally from North Dakota, from like an hour south of Canada. So, I mean, I went from there to Florida, then to Ohio. So Ohio was still better. But when I went to the academy, they had lost a guy, I think like the year before. So that was really like drilled into us when I was getting in. But the bigger thing for me was getting injured or getting something coming up where this is like a lot of guys get in, that's all they know. Like I got in at 18. I went to college, but most guys don't. And then if you get injured or something happens on the job, you don't have to get killed, but you could fall through the floor, land on your head, break your shoulder, do something to where you can't do the job anymore. Well, you have no skills in the transfer, because it's like the military where you could be like the number one sniper, the number one bomb tech, whatever it is. In the military, you're the top dog, right? You could be Green Beret, Navy SEAL, whatever. But when you get out into the business world or you get out into the civilian life, none of those skills transfer over. That's what was always scary for me, even at a young age, which is why it pushed me to go to college before, college was really a thing in the fire service. Now to move up or be promoted, you have to have some kind of college education. But, even with that, it's a piece of paper. And if you get out and you're like, well, I've done all this years in the fire service or in emergency management or whatnot, you can take that, like those skills don't transfer to hardly anything.
Yep.
If you're not working for like the EMA or the, something local in your area. And so that's that was always my thing, was if something happened to me, what am I going to do? How do I keep my family moving down the road, what they're used to, or what, without just losing everything.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a ton of sense. And not to leave it on a somber note, but I mean, I think that's a good way to wrap it up, that like you need to figure out your why you're investing and what you're doing it for more than anything. And we're definitely going to have you back on, because I think we just started to scratch the surface, but I got to get set up for this event that you're attending, and I'm really glad that you're here. I'm glad we got to do this pod. Where's the best place people can find you on the internet?
So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're TikTok. I mean, I think we've gotten to be about on everything now. LinkedIn.
All Firehouse Bros?
Firehouse Bros, or the Stream Group.
Stream Group.
Yep, that's our investment side of things. And then if they want, Instagram, it's my personal name, Seth Teagle. You can find me on Facebook. We have all of it. So,
all right,
any of it, check it out.
Everyone's got all of it these days.
Yeah, I know. You just got to ask.
Google me.
Yeah, just Google
right?
it.
Yeah.
So
for sure,
it's good though, because years ago that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
it'd be hard to find people. Cool. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I think that's great. Before we cut, favorite book or favorite podcast that you're in the middle of right now, or over the last year?
I'd say the favorite book would be what really got my like we talked about epiphany. So I had an epiphany reading Rich Dad Poor Dad to get into investing, and then when I read Dan Sullivan's book Who Not How, it really helped me like take my hands off the tools and understand like how to let other people do stuff. So that's probably, I always kind of say that book. And then podcasts, man, I don't know. I'm into all kinds of different podcasts. I'll give Tim Lyons a shout out. We were talking about him earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Passive Income Brothers podcast. He's a New York City fireman. He's in Corona, Queens. His podcast is great. So if you don't know Tim, check his podcast out as well.
Right on. Well, we appreciate it, man. Look forward to the next one we do, and glad you stopped by.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.